Welcome to the Cognitive Rampage podcast. Hope you're taking care of you. Hope you're living your cognitive rampage. To those of you watching live on Facebook too, and those of you who'll be tuning in live to this show, welcome. Welcome back. Yesterday did a podcast. Today doing a podcast. Saturday doing a podcast. We're kicking out like 3 in a row. Just boom, boom, boom. Some other guests coming on next week as well. This Saturday also, I would urge you to tune in. If you want to get some competence, tune in this Saturday. The infamous, the mighty Dr. Jack Cruz will be on the podcast with Naughty Illuminati Aguilar and myself. So Naughty Aguilar and me will be interviewing Dr. Jack Cruz, if you will. It takes 2 brains like that, I think, to be able to keep up with a guy like Dr. Jack Cruz. So tune in Saturday. That will be 9 a.m. Mountain Time, 10 a.m. Central Time, and I think it's 8 a.m. for Naughty. So there's 3 different time zones sitting on Saturday's podcast. And the new book, The Cognitive Rampage, 2nd edition, a scientific approach to self-discovery, change, and life optimization, will be out in just a few days. For those of you who bought the 1st edition of the book, just email us at cognitiveраmpagepodcast@gmail.com, and I will send you a free electronic copy of the 2nd edition for supporting the 1st edition as well. I also moved the Kindle to the 1st edition. You can no longer buy the 1st edition, by the way. That's why I was telling everybody for a few months to buy it, because it will be a limited print edition once it's not for sale anymore now. So yeah, that's why I was telling you to get it if you wanted to get it. But I moved the Kindle down to $2.99. That's the cheapest they would let me make it. I was going to make it free, but for some reason, I think Amazon wants their money too. So $2.99 was as cheap as I can make the Kindle, so you get the 1st edition as well. But that new book, it's already been submitted. The new cover is going to be coming on, et cetera, but it's a few days away. So I'm really just waiting on them to approve it. And once they approve it, I hit click and it's a go. And the 2nd edition will be available. Also, DollarMentalHealthClub.com, go there. It's mental training, something I'm sure we're going to talk about here with the guest today as well. I'm sure he spent a lot of time either getting some of and now is probably delivering a lot to some, but we'll get to that. But at Dollar Mental Health Club, what we're trying to do is change the paradigm of mental health. It's a new approach. So we're trying to tell people it's a new product, right? So educating about what it is. It's called mental training, right? That's what we're doing. It's offering tools and strategies in the present to help you with whatever you're dealing with in the present, right? It's not diagnosis management. It's certainly not therapy, I promise you that. But if you go to DollarMentalHealthClub.com, I'll tell you more. You can actually train with me. So you can book a 15-minute session, a 30-minute session, and I'll end up calling you or one of the other trainers like Steve. Alvin will be on there soon, and we're adding a few more trainers as we go along. So, yeah, go to DollarMentalHealthClub.com. Check that out. Help us change the paradigm. Get some tools and strategies to keep your mental healthy. Now the guest on the show today. I feel like I got to talk deeper because it's getting real. Like I'm introducing somebody coming into the ring. Somebody that's been introduced to the ring many, many times. I believe is a 4-time NCAA National Wrestling Champion from Cornell. So the motherfucker's smart too. So we got somebody that'll wrestle your ass, beat you down, and probably debate you all the way to the wall. Who knows? But this guest comes via Eric Fox, one of the talent bookers for the Cognitive Rampage, who's just been kicking ass. A vibrant and bright young man. And a shout out as well to Philip Martin, who's been doing some really good booking, and Nicole Kelly, who got us a booking I'll tell you about at another time. But that one's going to be pretty deep too. Again, so I appreciate all the Tribe of Change that watch and that listen. I love the Tribe of Change so much. But the guy on the show, Kyle Dake, welcome to the Cognitive Rampage, brother.
Thanks for having me, Adam.
So I was looking over some of your social media posts and some of the news press you're getting there, wrestling and helping out all these youths and doing it. It made me think, what was wrestling to you as a youth? Tell me a little bit, really, where love to start is where you come from, what you've been through, and kind of how you got here.
Yeah, so I grew up in Ithaca, New York, which is where Cornell is located, and spent my whole life here. I had some family in Ohio, and that's where my dad and my mom grew up, and really where the wrestling kind of started. My grandfather was a wrestler, a wrestling coach, and then he
my God, you sound like you're from the South. My daddy's daddy was a daddy's wrestler, and my daddy's daddy was a my God, man.
Yeah, so wrestling's been in the family for a long time. And we've had our share of successes, which is pretty cool. When I was younger, I wanted to wrestle for my grandpa, and then as I started getting older, started getting a little bit better, I wanted to be better than my dad. My dad was a high school state champ in Ohio, which is historically a much tougher state to win a state title in than New York. So I was like, okay, I just got to beat dad. So I ended up being a 2-time state champion, and then it came to college, and I was like, you know what,
So we beat dad. We beat dad then, right?
We got him. We got him. It was great.
I hope he's around listening to this right now.
He's actually working on my house right now. I'm at his house. We switched places for the day.
No, that's right. You were telling you're getting your house some remodeling done.
Yep. So
well, too bad. Cool. We'll play it back for him, and we'll let him know. We'll say, Dad beat you before I even got out of high school.
Yeah, but then actually he was a NCAA All-American when he went to Kent State University. So when I got to college, I was like, dang, I gotta beat him again. And I can't wait around. I can't wait around until my senior year to accomplish what he accomplished. So, let's see how well I can do. And I was the first 4-timer to win it without taking a red shirt.
Holy shit! And you went to Cornell, correct?
Yeah. So as soon as I got out of high school, a few months later, I was battling college guys, and it's a big jump. It's really hard for a lot of people to make. I think there's only like 17 true freshman national champions, and I was the only one to go on and win it 4 times. So
what? 4 times?
Yeah. So it was cool. So after my freshman year, I was like, oh, I beat my dad again, and so it was pretty cool to see, because he's always been my hero. He's been the guy I look up to for any sort of guidance. He was the one I would look up to, and he was a huge impact on my life.
Yeah, a lot of times we have guests that come on the show that have had let's say, a choice upbringing and background, right? That it was rather alternative or, difficult, put them hard through a lot of hard things. And I do love to bring on this and hear this side, that the other side exists too, that the positive motivation, the fathers that are our heroes, that are role models that we look up to, can also drive us to do amazing things that maybe we not even thought that we didn't even think we could do at one point.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Just thinking about it is, and for me, I've been able to meet thousands and thousands of people, and I'm on Team USA right now, so I kind of know most of the guys' story who are also on Team USA, and it's a huge diverse group from, being fed with a silver spoon all the way to, not having shoes until they were in high school. So it's amazing what humans are capable of. And it's not just about what physical gifts you're given. It's about what's between your ears and how you adapt to your situation and make your own life successful.
Yeah. Well, when you were talking about what common thread would you see? I mean, you just I love how you very nonchalantly dropped that I'm on the USA Olympic wrestling team. That's kind of you, as you just kind of blow by that. But I was wondering, maybe I'm probably fast forwarding as I would, but from all those diverse backgrounds, is there a common thread that you do see among them?
I think there's a couple. One is their just burning desire to succeed. And no matter what they do, most guys that are on the team, whether it be we're playing ultimate frisbee or we're playing poker or, we're wrestling, it doesn't matter. These guys want to succeed at the highest level. And now that I'm getting older and some of the guys on the team are getting older, and I'm starting to hang out with, starting to hang out with a different crowd. I'm not a high school, college kid anymore. A lot of these guys are becoming fathers, and they're becoming the best fathers that they can possibly be. And that's going to be the next step in my life after I'm done competing. So it's pretty cool to be able to see that too. But they just want to be the best, and they work really, really hard at becoming the best. And I being around those types of people really motivates you to raise your level of game.
Yeah, I'm gonna jump around like I normally do and kind of go back. I was having these thoughts there about, when you became a 4-time champion and NCAA champion as a freshman and et cetera. Now, when you set out, we talked about the drive that you see among these people. Was the drive set out to be the champion, get the belt per se, or was it more of a personal drive day to day? What was it mainly?
When I was younger, I was pretty small for my age. I matured pretty late, and I spent a lot of time with older guys because in New York you're allowed to wrestle on the varsity team if you're in 7th and 8th grade, and you pass whatever physical tests that you need to pass. So I had a bunch of older guys who were much more mature than I was, and physically, emotionally, mentally, and I kind of had a Napoleon complex. I was a small guy, and I had to prove myself um, day in and day out, and I absolutely hated the feeling of failure. Um, you know, it, you always learn something from failure, and that's what I've taken away from it. And looking back, I realized that failure is not such a bad thing because it's used to correct the course. Maybe you're doing something that needs to be changed, whether it be the way you're training or the way you approach the sport or the way you're approaching life and relationships, how you treat people. It kind of a little bit of a wake up call. So I realized that failure is good, especially if you're failing every single day, and that's what I try to do. I try to fail every day. I try to set goals for myself that are just a little bit out of reach, and I usually find myself not being able to accomplish those goals day in and day out. It's something as simple as I want to score 20 points in 3 minutes, and I end up scoring only 18. And I failed, but I set my goals so lofty that failing is not that bad, and it gives me room to improve and make little gains every single day. And I've always done that. I've done it because I've had great coaching. My father was actually my wrestling coach in high school. My grandfather was my wrestling coach when I was younger. So those guys kind of implanted that way of thinking into my brain, and I was just able to carry that through my college career and even now into my professional career.
Yeah, I'm noticing this common theme here about being around mentors, about being around older people, not so much circling the crowd that our age may make us belong into, et cetera, that you seem to have pushed yourself, or sometimes we're lucky enough to be put in those environments.
Yeah, you never want to be the smartest man in the room. You always want to have someone who can push you in any direction they want to. So anytime I go to a wrestling camp, I'm always seeking out the guy with the most knowledge. But that being said, I can still learn from people who are younger than me, from people who are less experienced than I am. You gotta approach every relationship that you have, whether it just be someone passing by, a family member, or one of your very close friends that you're trying to learn and grow to find a new level of understanding. And it can be understanding of life. It could be understanding of why you do a certain thing a certain way, or why a certain movement works on the mat.
Yeah, I want to go. Was there a time, you know, high school, college, to where you almost walked, to where you said, "I'm at the fence. Forget this. I can't do this anymore."
Yeah, actually, I was in 6th grade, and wrestling was pretty serious for me. This was like when I really wanted to be good, and I was going through a string of events, and obviously my hormones were going wild anyway. But I was like, I don't want to wrestle anymore. I'm done. This is terrible. Like maybe my dad was a little hard on me in practice, and I came home and I told him I didn't want to wrestle anymore, and locked myself in my room and just didn't want to be a part of it. Didn't want to go to the next tournament, and I was done. And then I woke up the next day, and I was stubborn, so I was like, I'm still done. I don't want to do this. I'm going to go do something else. And I started playing basketball, and I had played a little bit with my buddies, and I finally joined. They let me join late on their basketball team, and I was just a defensive powerhouse at 4'6" in 6th grade. So I was a beast out there, but not really. So, and as I was playing it, I realized that not everyone was putting in the same amount of effort as I was. I was trying my hardest every single time I got on the court, and my teammates weren't. They were being lazy. They weren't putting forth that same effort, and we suffered from it. Our team suffered. We didn't win, and I was just like, what the heck? Like I hate failing, and our team just lost. but there was nothing more I could have done, but I can't control how my teammates play. And it kind of dawned on me that if I wanted to reap the rewards, I needed to do something that was all on me. And wrestling was that sport for me. And all the results were because of me. It was my fault. Whatever happened, it was my fault. Whether I won, whether I lost, it was my fault. And that's the way I liked it, because I could control how much effort and how much time I put into something to get where I wanted to be. And that's really why I fell in love with the sport. And I came back and with a new perspective and really started making a lot of jumps.
Yeah, I'm noticing some things. I'm kind of mental noting in my head as you're going along, being such a high performance athlete, that so far I've picked up older than you mentorships. I picked up a continuous drive to want to fail, but at the same time being controlled enough to set goals that were high enough to push you further. And never, it seems like, a lack of drive, like you said, with the other guys on the wrestling team. These are four things I'm putting together. And, one other thing I picked out from what you said too is you don't seem to be some arrogant asshole when you have every title that there is to make you that guy. You didn't go there. You even said it here, is you don't want to be the smartest guy in the room, etc. You're learning from it. These are 4 or 5 things that I'm seeing that seem to be what make you the champion you are, man.
My biggest thing is, what use does it give me to be an arrogant guy? What does that do for me? It doesn't really do anything. You see it all the time with all sorts of athletes, and they're just super arrogant about what they've accomplished, and they're always tooting their own horn and giving themselves pats on the back. And I'm just like, what is that? How does that help? What is that doing for you? Are you content with where you are? Do you not want to continue to grow in understanding and better yourself, that you're willing to stay in this exact position because you have your entire life ahead of you? A lot of the greatest athletes, you look at Tom Brady. He's what? Is he 40 yet?
He'll forever be 28, badass, superhuman. You're lucky to shake my hand.
And what happens after sport? What happens after you're done with football or wrestling? You have another 40, 50, 60 years of your life that you have to deal with and you have to come about. And you can't just live in the glory days. It doesn't matter what your glory days are. You see high school athletes living in their glory days all the time. You see college athletes living in their glory days, and they're not really being present. They're not living the moment and really trying to better themselves so that they can better the world.
Man, whew, how old are you?
26.
Shit. Young man talking like that, man. I can see why you're coaching the youth. These are beautiful insights too. And I will say the only position in any sport that I say in my joking is allowed to be arrogant is a wide receiver. And the only reason I say wide receiver is allowed to be arrogant because I think you got to be a tad fucking crazy to take your smaller than everyone ass on the field and cross the middle with some beast of 250 that's looking to cut you in half. So I think a lot of the wide receiver arrogance comes from them hiding the fact that they're scared to fucking death. So they got to come up with this, I'm the man, I can cross the middle, I'm not going to get killed.
There's definitely a better way to handle that, I think. You find some of the best receivers, and it just so happens that they're arrogant and they're outspoken. And I would love to. I don't know much about football enough to say, so and so wasn't arrogant, but they were a badass on the field. Because they don't get as much press because people love the dancing and the showboating.
Yeah, I would agree, right? It gets you the notice on MMA, right? You got to throw the monster can, you got to say the right shit talking, and people notice you.
Yeah. Otherwise, they think you're boring, which is kind of shows where society is at and what they look for, and which is kind of sad at the same time. But we'll grow, we'll adapt. Something catastrophic is going to happen, and only the strongest will survive. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I used to say that, if there were 2 men, both equal in stature, training, etc., looks, whatever, and one guy is sitting quiet on the chair and another guy's running his mouth, which one do you not want to fight?
The guy who's sitting quiet.
Me either, right? Because I know that dude barking is terrified. I know he's scared and he's barking, letting people know. And I've said it before. My grandfather used to tell me, he would say things like, Adam, there's nothing scarier on the planet than a psycho man, and except a controlled psycho man. And and I was like, wow, man, I can get that. My brother used to fight back in the day, US Open karate stuff before MMA and all. And he was always the plain white gi guy. Him and his mullet would just kind of quietly walk his ass in the ring, didn't say much. And I remember watching him fight this dude with this, it had a tiger stripe chrome gi and just bouncing all over the place. This shit was 32 seconds long, man. And dude's ribs were gone. And, you see that, right? And I'm from the old school, too, when I played football, man. It was to knock somebody's teeth out and get up like you've been there before.
Yeah. That's what I love about it. You can have these guys who are showboaters, and then all of a sudden they get hit in the mouth and they're humbled really quickly. And
have you been humbled? When were you humbled, man?
I've been humbled plenty of times. I thought I was the man. And
which one sticks out?
I think probably going into college. I just thought I was I just come off winning a national title in high school, and I was like, I'm the man. I can do this. This is no problem. I can succeed at the next level. And I go in one day and I just get destroyed. I was wrestling four-time All-American NCAA champion from Cornell, and he brought me to a place that I have never been before, and I was just hurting. I couldn't believe the beatdown I just took, because I was this big bad dude coming out of high school, and I get into this new arena, and all of a sudden I'm a small guy again, and now I have to prove myself and keep working harder and harder. So it was a momentary. It was a good lesson for me to learn, and I make sure that I enter every situation not as the big bad guy, but the small guy trying to prove himself.
Yeah, you speak a lot to the power of what I like to say, letting them fall. Parents have a hard time letting their kids fall, letting them get hurt, if you will. Fine, touch the stove. It's hot as shit. I told you no. Letting them fall. And, we got to fall. You spoke about it earlier about allowing the failure to move forward.
For sure. I don't have any kids yet, but I'm sure my kid is going to be bumped and bruised all the time, because he's going to have to figure it out on his own.
Well, he's got to beat dad. You think you were bad trying to beat dad.
Well, hopefully he tries to beat dad at golf or tennis or something where he can, just kick ass.
Yeah, somewhere where you're not getting slammed around all the time. Is that what you're saying?
That's yeah. I mean, although it is good too, it builds some character, and I'm sure my son will or daughter will want to wrestle.
Well, come on, it's in the lineage, brother. It's in the DNA. It's been passed down since Civil War times with your family, man. You're gonna think you're gonna have a golf player.
But the cool thing for me is that I think I can teach my kids a little bit better than I was taught, and prepare them a little bit better now that I have functional patterns and some other knowledge that I picked up along the way.
Oh, man, you said it. You brought up the functional patterns. Before we get into that biomechanics, holy my God, how it influences your Olympic game and your strength, which I know it does. I wanted to talk more about, when did you find the mental aspect of the game really improving your game?
My mom actually was a huge component to that. She was always on me about, my mental strength and mental toughness, and really taking life by the horns rather than, letting it come to me. And always, Kyle, you got to stay positive. You got to get out there and you got to keep trying your hardest, and you can't get down on yourself. And I would, there was times when I would do that, but she would be right there in my ear, getting me focused again, getting me back to where I needed to be in order to compete at a high level. So, not only did I have my dad doing an awesome job, I had my mom helping me out too. And, that's probably one of my biggest advantages as a competitor is, my mentality and my mental attitude towards the sport, towards life. It's something that I think I was very, very fortunate to have passed down to me.
Yep. God, beautiful again, man. The hi moms that we got to do, right? That's why the dads always get left out when the camera gets on us, right? We say hi, mom.
Yeah, that's right. You got to make sure you give love to both of them.
Yeah, to pull from, I'm going to go all the way up to your present now in the mental training and be able to combine your the collegiate and high school, etc. And what is your mental preparation like coming into the training week versus tournament day?
Training week is all about learning and understanding certain things that I'm doing, whether it be on the wrestling mat, recovery, strength training, posture training, whatever it might be. There's a certain learning um, component to that, and I need to learn every single day so that I can continue to grow and be better. And that way, once I do compete, I can just let everything go. I don't need to hold on to anything. I don't need to use competition as a learning stone at the time. After I'm done competing, uh, I can look back and okay, I did this, this, and this right. I need to make some adjustments here. But I do make a lot of adjustments mid-match, and then from match to match. So you know, when there's a small break, if something's not working, whether it be I'm leading my right leg, I need to lead my left leg. I'm reaching with my left hand too much. I'm showing something off with my shoulder placement. I need to lower my level. I need to move my feet more, my hands more. I need to change direction more. There's so many little factors that you have to make small adjustments to. And I know that I've experienced everything in my training that I have nothing to worry about. I just have to go out and do it. And I have to be completely present and doing that. When you're training and you're trying to learn, you're in your head a little bit. You're thinking about ways to improve, and sometimes uh, that can work, um, but it's slow in my opinion. It's slow for someone to try to think about how they're going to compete um, when they're actually out there. If you try to think about what you're going to do next, you're half a second too slow. You have to feel it. You have to know that situation so much that when it comes, you just respond and that's it. You're ready to go, and um, that's the difference between competing and training.
Let's say there's a match coming up. I don't know the time frame, a week, 2 weeks. What's a typical day to day for the week of you like?
So I have to manage my weight. So that becomes a pretty large component of what I'm trying to do, and making sure my body feels good. If you don't have the distraction of a nagging shoulder or foot or knee, or you got a neck problem, those are things that can kind of take away from your game and take away from what you're trying to accomplish. So if you keep your body healthy, you start to repair a little bit more. That becomes a huge factor. Um, the leading weeks up, and that's where I'm at right now. I'm actually competing in 3 weeks at the U.S. Open in Las Vegas, and so I'm in that mode right now. So like today, I have to go work out in probably about an hour to get some FP in, so that I can make sure that I'm balanced out, and then I'm gonna have a little spar session, and then I'll be home making dinner and making sure that I'm blocking some of that blue light out so I can stay healthy and get my mitochondria working just like Dr. Cruz.
I agree, man. I won't keep you on this too long. We don't want to drain those electrons at all. But
That's all right.
um, so as you're building up the training, you're the FP for sure. I want to get a little deeper into that too about why you do it, etc. But as the week goes on, the weight cutting is become real controversial in MMA and many martial arts and wrestling, etc. And what are some of the toughest parts about that? What are your feelings on weight cutting, etc.?
So you kind of got to go back to and look at my whole career to get an understanding of where I'm coming from. When I was in high school, my freshman year, I only weighed about 95 pounds and I wrestled 96 pounds. So that was the weight class that I participated in. And then the summer after, I was expecting to go back down to maybe 96 at the second half of the year, but certainly 103, which was the next weight class up um, for the first half of the year. So we have to go through the certification process where they measure your body fat, your hydration level, blah 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 blah, and then they give you the minimum weight that you can make. And instead of being able to make 103, I ended up only being able to make like 105 or something like that. So I bumped up a weight class, so I had to go 112. And I didn't even weigh, I weighed maybe 110 pounds at the start of the season. So I've always been kind of wrestling up, and it happened every year. After that year, I expected to wrestle 119, ended up wrestling 130. And then the next year, I expected to wrestle 135, ended up wrestling 140. So I was always kind of a smaller guy wrestling up a weight class. But then when I got to college, it completely reversed. In college, I was a 4-time NCAA champion at 4 different weight classes. Never been done before.
Holy shit.
I would be really surprised if it happened again. Hopefully it does, and hopefully it's one of my future studs who can be an undefeated 4-time NCAA champion at 4 different weight classes, which would definitely put him as the best ever. But so my freshman year, I'd come into college and I only weigh 150 pounds, and I would lose weight at practice, and I'd weigh out of practice at 144, 145, and the weight class that I was wrestling was 141. So I was like, oh, this is going to be no problem. Certifying for the weight is going to be easy. I'll be able to make it, and it won't be a problem whatsoever. The unfortunate thing was that I grew about 1.5 inches from my senior year in high school till mid-March, my freshman year. So instead of weighing about 150 pounds, I started weighing about 162, 163 pounds, and I had to lose that weight every week to get down to 141. And it was brutal. It was completely brutal, and I was wrestling I was wrestling just to make weight. But I had that deep desire to do well and to succeed, that I kind of was able to bypass that craziness that I went through. And then the next year, I was like, you know what? I'm done cutting weight. I'm going to go out to 149 because I can make 149 no problem. I only weigh 162. This is easy. It's like half the weight. Start of the season, same thing. I weighed about the same. And then all of a sudden, instead of growing any taller, I started growing wider. And, instead of weighing 162 pounds, I started weighing like 172 pounds. And I was like, what is going on? And I had to cut a ton of weight again. So I was struggling my first 2 years. And the next year, I'm like, you know what? I'm done. I'm going up again. And this was after I won 2 national titles. And people were like, you're crazy. You have to go back down to 149. Like, you can't go 127. Those guys are too big, too strong. And I went up anyway. And
challenge accepted, you said.
Yeah, exactly. Each year was kind of cool because I was no longer defending my title. I was going to take somebody else's. I was going up a weight class, and I had to prove myself again. So there was new challenges that kept it fresh for me, and I needed to continually to improve and get better so that I could keep competing at a high level. But fortunately, my junior year, I didn't grow anymore. I only weighed 172 pounds, and I got down to 157, no problem. And then my senior year, I actually lost some weight. I was coming into the season, I only weighed 168, and so I was like, oh, I'm a little lighter now. I can make 57, no problem. And my team was going to be much better if I wrestled 165. And I had been wrestling big guys my entire life, and I thought, you know what, I can do that, no problem. So there's an all-star match right before the season starts, and the number 1 recruit coming out of high school, he was undefeated his freshman year until his final match where he was winning and then ended up getting pinned in the NCAA finals. And then the next year he dominated everybody. Tech fall, which basically means he mercy ruled everyone in the NCAA tournament. And so it was his junior year, my senior year, and I decided to bump up to wrestle him in the all-star match. And I went out and we had a really close match, and I won. And so I was like, you know what, I'm just going to stay at 165. And this is where people thought I was really insane, because the guy that I wrestled, he was the Hodge Trophy winner, which means he was the Heisman. He was the greatest wrestler in the U.S. According to coaches, fans, previous winners, etc. But they were like, you're crazy to go up and challenge him. And I was like, okay, let's go. Let's do it again. Challenge accepted. So now the next year I kept competing a little bit, and this past year I went up to 190 pounds to try to make the Olympic team.
What the hell,
And
man?
I know. So I made it to the finals. I lost so the finals is best 2 out of 3 to determine who's the Olympian. I lost my first match, and then the second match I came back and won, and then the third match I was losing 3-1 and had a takedown, took him out of bounds. It was 3-2, and it was pretty controversial at the end, and ended up losing, so I didn't make the team. But that guy, so I won at 165 my senior year. This guy, he was still in college. He ended up taking a bronze medal at the Olympics, and then he just won his third national title at the NCAAs at 197. So it was a pretty big weight disparity between the two of us. And but I still competed at such a high level. I beat him, and it was something special. Had it been a different day, who knows what could have happened? Maybe I win 2 straight. Maybe I lose 2 straight. But it's cool to be able to compete at such a high level at any weight class that you want to. And that's why I don't think that people should be cutting weight, is because I've had success going up in weight classes. I've had success not needing to cut weight. And I don't think that when you're a young kid who isn't a full grown man should be cutting weight at all. And that's a huge topic for wrestling is, kids are trying to cut all this weight and so that they can win a silly plastic trophy that doesn't mean anything. Nobody cares if you're a Tulsa national champion when you're 8 years old. Nobody cares. Why are you cutting weight? You should be learning. You should be growing. It should be developmental, not focused on results. And that's a big thing that I see with the weight cutting paradigm is everyone is looking for results. They're looking to be the best. They're looking to be a gold medal. They're looking to take first place, which is a complete wrong mindset. You need to have the mindset of, I want to be the best I can possibly be. And if the best I can possibly be is only second place, then that's all I can do right now. I got to get back to the drawing board, keep working, and be the best I can possibly be on that day that I compete. And for some reason or another, there's only a handful of people that understand that message. And they understand that, I want to be the best version of myself that I can possibly be. I don't care about winning gold. I don't care about any of that. I just want to be the best I can be. And if the best I can be means I win gold, then great. It's a personal challenge that you have to make, but it's a cultural thing that needs to be established within your group of friends. It can range from anything. It doesn't have to be with wrestling. It could be with, I want to be the best podcaster that I can possibly be. I want to be the best author that I can possibly be. I want to be the best dog walker that I can possibly be. It doesn't matter what you want to do. If you're the best in the world at it, then you're gonna be fine. So that's the kind of approach that I take and how I view weight cutting.
Man, that's a hell of a rampage right there, brother. You were going off. I had so many questions running through my head. To go back to the weight cutting part, what was I'm always interested in the mental attack and whether it's the mental attack on you or the mental defense that you're using as you're trying to get through those weight cutting processes, etc. I'm going to extend a long questionnaire because you're going to go off again. My boy just stood up. So, as you're challenging the lose weight, the gain weight, etc., you're going through that. I'd like to know that mental process, how it attacks you, what it makes you think about, what you go through even physically that makes your mind go. What do you do to counter that? And then as you start to talk about that too, I love the aspect of how you said, you know what, I'm going to the next weight class. I'm going to the next weight class. And you kept moving forward and kept taking the next biggest challenge, and moving forward. And walk me into your mental approach in all those 3 realms for what happens to you as you're losing the weight, what's your mind going through, what you do to counter that, and what mental aspects you were implementing to just push yourself to the next baddest motherfucker, the next baddest dude you were going to go, the next one.
Yeah, so like you said, it's really it really is a mental game. And that's why I love listening to your podcast and figuring out other people and how they kind of approach this thing. But
thank you.
Like how I operate is I look for the challenges in life. I don't shy away from those challenges. I've always done that, whether it be, taking on the biggest, baddest dude in the room, whether it be taking, you know, trying to push myself in the cold tub, trying to do whatever it might be in the sauna. It doesn't matter. I'm always looking for that challenge, and the reason I'm looking for that challenge is just prove to myself that I'm mentally tough enough to do it. Am I mentally strong enough to endure this pain, to endure what I'm trying to do, whether it be over a short period of time, like staying in the sauna for however long to lose the weight, or working out, being extremely disciplined with my diet so that I can naturally bring my weight down. So these are the small things that I challenge with myself every single day that other people are shy away from. An average person doesn't really challenge themselves physically, mentally, and emotionally every day, and they start to grow soft a little bit because they don't have someone knocking on the door, knocking on their mental strength and saying, hey, are you strong today, or are you weak today? And some days you're weak, some days you aren't your best days, which is completely fine. You just got to learn from those days. And some people just have it inherently. Some people, whether it be they grew up with a awesome background with great parents, or they grew up and they didn't have the same support systems that a lot of people have. But everyone will find their own way, and that's what's cool about it. It doesn't matter where you came from. It only matters how you perceive a certain situation. Do you perceive this situation as something that's going to be negative towards me and I want to shy away from it, or it's going to be harmful and I'm afraid of the pain? Or are you going to say, you know what, I'm going to do this. It doesn't matter that, I wasn't wearing shoes until I was 12 years old. It doesn't matter that. I'm going to go and do my very, very best. And that's something that's really cool to me.
Yeah, I also now want to get into the FP stuff or however it goes. Can you talk about the stretch over college into what you do now at the Olympics, etc., how your training has evolved?
So as you get older, you can't recover as well. Your tissues aren't as flexible, or as what's the word I'm looking for?
How about
Anti
just
fragile.
working?
Yeah, they tend to break a little bit more. And I could go out and do 100 squats with 225 pounds on my back, and I felt good about it because I thought that was going to make me jump the next level. So there's a little bit of a mental aspect to the way you train, and whether it be through lifting or through FP, you have to know what you're looking for. So, is there no benefit to traditional lifting? Absolutely not. There's clearly a benefit. Otherwise, people wouldn't do it. Is it the best way? No, I don't think so. And that's why I've adapted. That's why I've moved past it, because I think that it's caused me some injuries. The ways I'm training, whether it be with wrestling, with running, with my weight training, with my flexibility training, I think it's caused some problems. And maybe they don't manifest themselves right away as you're doing them. So maybe, doing some squats when you're 18 doesn't manifest itself as an injury until you're 25. But it's going to manifest itself sooner or later. And what I found with FP is something that understands that notion, and what they want to do is say, okay, well, let's load our bodies in a way that we're supposed to load them, that we've evolved to load them, whether it be throwing or running or wrestling. These are things that are we've adapted as humans to be runners, to be throwers, and all of your listeners and yourself included know what FP is about. But if I can adjust and get back to how I've evolved as a hunter and gatherer in my training and strengthen those systems, then once I get on the wrestling mat, it's going to be easy. I'm anybody that tries to do anything, I'm going to be able to move better than them. I'm going to be able to be stronger than them. I'm going to be able to be more athletic than them. And that's what I'm going for. And this system, to me, seems like the best way to do it. A lot of people have come come up to FP and been like, how am I going to get big? How am I going to get strong? And what do you mean strong? Strong in what context? Do you want to be able to move a bar? Is that your sport? Well, if that's your sport, then you have to do it. But if your sport is, let's say, basketball or football or wrestling, you need to move. You need to be able to move well, and you need to be able to stay on the field or on the mat as long as you can. And that means you have to avoid injuries. So when you're cross training, your cross training should be to get you back to your roots. And wrestling's brutal on the body. If you go and watch anyone in a wrestling stance, they're hunched over, their shoulders are rolled forward, their neck is out of whack, and there's so many compromising positions that you can be in, that when you cross train, you need to address those issues. And that's what I've been doing. And fortunately, I've had Nowdy these past few months to be able to kind of move me along faster than normal. Because at first I was just taking all of his free content that he put out there and putting it to my own use. And this happened because I had shoulder injuries. I fractured my scapula, tore my labrum, rotator cuff, and biceps tendon. So
Shit, you were in a car accident, man. Jeez.
Essentially, and it was just like, I need to figure out a way to come back. And I'm tired of getting injured, because before that I had a foot injury that kept me off the mat for 12 months. It was something so small that it shouldn't have happened. It could have, it happened, but and it led me to where am today. So I'm thankful for it. But I'd always suffered through some muscle injuries, whether it be, a hamstring or a bicep or an ab or whatever it might be. There was something that I always had to deal with, and I was tired of it. So I started training FP. Oh boy, here goes my dogs. I started training FP and realized that my body started feeling a lot better after my training sessions. I wasn't coming in the next day like sluggish and super sore and like, I can't do this, because those are the days where you're at highest risk for injury. And I understood my body and what it could take, and to a certain extent I could avoid injury just because I knew when to tone back my training. But that just wasn't enough. It wasn't enough anymore, because I wasn't as young as I was. And I needed to adapt and get better. And FP was the best way for me to do that. And I think it still is the best way for anybody trying to improve.
Whew. Spoken from a true warrior who's done it all, from high school to college to now the Olympics, has found that way to cross over. Essentially, I remember the wrestling guys would rarely, or not rarely, but would constantly be running all the time. They were doing stadiums. They would do some cardio that I would be like, thank God I don't fucking wrestle. I'm glad I play football, because I mean, they would just go insane with all these, but they also lifted. They lifted a lot. And so that evolution you went through was from the typical lifting, Olympic lifting, et cetera, and all the other cross training you're doing. And then found manifestations to be injured later, and now still have switched over. Wow, man. I mean, I'm sorry. I don't know any other athlete that I could speak to that is as accomplished and has not done 4 weight classes, lost weight for their whole high school career, added weight their whole collegiate career. You've seen both sides of the fence, trying to be heavy enough, then trying to be light enough, taking on the next biggest dude, going to the next best fucking tournament. You've done all of that, and you cross over to the FP world.
Yeah, and my goal is to be the best I can possibly be. And I just didn't think that the current method of training that I was undergoing would allow me to do that. And I think I'm getting, I don't know if I'm getting close. I think I'm getting pretty close to as good as I can possibly be. And once I get there, I'm probably going to be done competing and want to transfer my life into coaching or whatever it might be. But who knows? That could be this year. It could be 4 years from now. It could be 8 years from now. It really depends on when I stop improving and stop seeing myself get better. And then I'm going to have to try to get better in other areas, whether it be coaching or being a father or whatever it might be.
Yeah, I keep coaching the youth, my friend. I've listened to you talk here. You come from a lineage of great men, it seems, and I think a lot of young men are missing those fathers in their lives. And I promise you, as you know, have been working with the youth. I noticed, you know, they need some sort of father like that to step in, even if it's from somewhere, and even if you may not be able to pass your genes down directly to them, the advice, what you've been through, everything I heard here is far above what most people are able to do. And that, I believe, should be spread to the youth, man. I appreciate you doing that.
Yeah, I really love it. I go in and I have there's 45, 48 kids that were on the youth team that I coached this year. It was my dad and I who kind of brought it back to our high school, and we actually had one of the at least the best coaching staff in all of youth wrestling. We rivaled several college programs. My dad was an All-American. I was a 4-time NCAA champion. We had another 3-time All-American. And then we had another guy who was a 3-time All-American national champion who was our coaching staff. So it was pretty cool to see all of us working with those kids. And, the biggest numbers that we had were kindergarten and first grade. And these guys are all first-year wrestlers who don't really know that much, and they are just dying to get back to practice. I see them around town, and they're like, "Hey, Kyle, I'm really excited for practice on Thursday. What are we gonna do? Are we gonna learn, this new double leg?" Da, da, da. And it's just like to see the joy that these kids have and the confidence that they gain is amazing. And they're telling all their friends about it, how much fun they're having, and that's what wrestling's about. And if we can make kids, boys and girls, fall in love with the sport before they get to the hard stuff, then we're doing something right. The problem is we have all these old school guys who want to just weed out the weak. They want to weed them out when they're young, and they want to just keep the best. When I'm just trying to grow as many numbers as I can, because you never know where a kid's going to be. You've seen those short, fat, chubby kids who end up turning into monsters and playing in the NFL. Like, those are the types of kids that we got to make sure stay in wrestling because they love it so much. And that's what I like to see, and that's what I'm trying to do with the youth, because being able to see what kind of impact I have on young kids directly week in and week out. And we only did it for 7 weeks, so it wasn't that big of a deal. But for those kids, it was a big deal. It was only an hour and a half out of my day, twice a week. So it was just like a no-brainer for me to do, because I realized how much I benefited from it, because I was in that same program. We had 6 or 7 coaches who would come in and volunteer their time. They did it twice as much, because we have so many kids back then that they needed to double the amount of practice in order to accommodate everyone. But so if I can do something so small to give back, hopefully I can and shape some of these young kids to change the world. Really, I don't care if they're wrestlers or they go on to win the Olympics. Really, what I want them to do is to take the mindset and the skills that I've taught them or have passed down to them, because that's where I got them. My mission will be complete. So in 10, 20 years, when these kids come back and say, "Oh, those were some of the greatest times of my life. I love doing that." I look back and have this nostalgia about it. That's what I'm looking forward to. And the reason I know it's going to happen is because I've done the same things, and all of my friends who competed with me have thanked all of our coaches for being such huge influences.
Man, you lit up like a Christmas tree, man. You started talking about those kids and lit up like a tree, man. The kids kind of were my saving grace when I got back from my walkabout and changed my life. I started coaching at the YMCA, some flag football stuff, and they did way more for me than any of my coaching, I'm sure, did for them. I write in the book even, and it's amazing when you can get around the youth and they feed us, man. They like feed you an energy like that. And I love how you also pointed out those I'm just calling them Pop Warner asshole coaches that really don't coach as much or maybe even be good, but they're trying to, like you said, I love how you pointed out they weed out, and really those that we tend to weed out end up being national champions of many things. Like you said, you're a smaller guy. I talked to a few other people that say, yeah, I was picked on a lot as a kid. Then I got bigger. I got changed my life. I got here. Wrestling did this. Jiu-jitsu did this for me, etc. And that's so important. You know, I think so many are looking for that diamond in the rough to go, yeah, we're going to coach this kid and take them to all these tournaments. I'll be in their corner. It's almost like they're projecting their own failures and losses, trying to live through that kid.
You're 100% right. You know, their ego just gets so entrapped in putting it on another kid, saying, hey, you know, you need to be great because I was not great. And you see it sometimes with a lot of fathers, and unfortunately it happens more in wrestling, I think, because once you start to understand the sport, it really comes when you're 20-ish, and you can kind of see the big picture. Is a lot of these guys can't wrestle anymore. You know, they're not they're either not good enough, they're injured. You know, a lot of these high school kids move on and they're like, man, I finally was starting to understand wrestling. You know what I need to do? I need to coach. And then all of a sudden they're in these guys' corner and they're screaming at a kid until they're crying, blue in the face. And I just think to myself, like, what are you doing? Why are you punishing this kid for failing, for losing? What is that teaching him? And it's kind of like a vicious cycle that you see, because those kids end up doing the same things to their kids. So it's sad to see, but there's a paradigm shift coming, and hopefully I can be a part of it.
Well, I hope we should just put a law down that if anyone ever sees that happening, it's automatic double leg from Kyle. You're going to get dropped. So there's no yelling at kids if they're failing. You know, we can motivate and find a way. But I'm so with you, man, about that. I some of the parents that used to yell at these kids that they're not even coaches or anything, and I would watch them just, you dumb, what are you doing, and coming down on them so hard. I'm like, you know, no one's looking. I'm gonna beat the shit. You know what I mean? I'm gonna get this dude.
Yeah, it's sad to see. You know, you feel so bad for the kid because now they associate wrestling with getting yelled at and getting punished for trying their hardest. And I'm sure there's some times when kids don't try their hardest and they don't compete at a high level. But a lot of the time, it's just because the coach is like, I taught you how to do this a million times. Why aren't you doing it? Well, it's not as easy as it sounds, Dad. You've had thousands of reps, and I've had 100 reps, and now you're trying to project onto me. Just like, get out of here. And kids don't know how to deal with that type of thing. They aren't taught how to deal with a crazy parent. You know, it's got to be up to other coaches, other leaders in the industry to come down hard on those parents and be like, listen, I've seen you do this. Cut it out. You got to stop. And the worst part about it is like, no, I don't do that. Every parent, no, I don't do that. I would never do that. That's not me. And all of a sudden, actions speak way louder than your words. And you see, go to any high school tournament, it's just like that. Any youth tournament is just like that. So, a lot of the responsibility has to come down on people like me. People like people.
That's why I was pointing at you. I was pointing right at you.
Yeah, people who are influencers in the sport, and I can speak to fathers and be like, listen, you're doing it wrong. The reason I know that is because I've had experience with thousands of kids, and every time a parent is doing what you're doing, they quit. They're done. They're or they never reach their potential, and it's all your fault. And then you put it on them, and they're just like, oh God, this isn't cool. Because you call them out. You call them out on their antics, and it's just like, why are you doing what you're doing? Well,
Dude,
what gives you the right to do that?
Yeah, dude. I'll be humble enough to admit this shit here, or at least try to be. I was raised. I had one of them dads, if you would, that was never quite good enough, never quite fast enough. You could run the state in tackling, it wouldn't matter. And when I got my own daughter, almost naturally, as she chose volleyball, something I knew nothing about, which I think she did on purpose, so I couldn't say shit. But I knew about the training, right? But I knew about the training. So almost robotic like in her first season, I kind of clicked into this, you're not getting up, you got to eat right. And then I noticed she did start to fall away from the sport. And I checked myself like, holy shit, what have I become? And I totally changed. And I'm like, dude, I'm just your biggest fan, baby. I'm just here to be your biggest fan. And she goes, oh, boom, jump right back in it, skyrocketed, got better than anything I had ever seen. In my opinion, I'm a biased ass dad. But, even myself who went through it that way accidentally was like, oh shit, what am I doing? and was able to kind of change that. And she did it all on her own after that. You know, that it was all her, had nothing to do with me. I was just the fan with the shirt that said, "I'm here to embarrass my daughter in volleyball." And and I was that corny dad, man, who was yelling Molo every time, man. And I think really what they want, right, is just they want you to be their biggest fan, really.
Yeah, the parents just need to get out of the way. You know, you have so much experience because you're older. These young kids, 6 to 18 years old, have almost no experience in what they're doing. You know, how can they expect to know exactly what you know? They can't. They don't have they've never gone through that. You just have to let them experience that thing. It's just like touching a hot stove. You know, you're gonna burn yourself. You can tell them, but it's way easier to understand after you touch that and your skin starts boiling over, and you're like, okay, well, I'm not gonna do that again. So I learned from my experience, and it's the same thing with sports, and it's the same thing with everything. You know, so these are things that you can be taught, but you have to learn from experience, and it's very undervalued for parents, especially because they think that their kids should know everything that they know, and really they just get in the way. Everyone gets in the way. Just stay back, let them do their thing, and you're doing a great job with your daughter. You know, letting her do her own thing, and it's great that you had the mental capability to see what was happening and see what you were doing in correct course. And all I can hope is that more parents are doing the same things as you did.
Oh man, I have my moments then, man. I appreciate that. And you know, for the last little bit I want to ask is, so are you showing the young kids some FP?
You know, I'm not. I was doing a lot of gymnastics with them last year, and a lot of them got better, and it was really about proprioception and body control. And like I said, when you're a kid and you do these things, you're getting you can figure these things out. And I think FP is eventually going to go in a direction where all movements are going to be included. You know, so whether it be a bench press or a backflip, these are things that have some sort of code to them. You know, and Natty's going to figure that out. And I think they are important in certain situations. You know, for me, being super athletic, I think stemmed from my fact that I did a lot of gymnastics and I tried a bunch of different things and failed a bunch of times. You know, I can't tell you how many times I landed on my head trying to do a back tuck.
Yeah,
So
that's why I never did gymnastics, because you got to fuck up a whole lot before you land one of them things. And I was taking freight trains to the head my whole life playing ball. I'm like, no, you just don't get good doing that shit. You got to you got to say oops a few times, man. And I wasn't willing to do that.
yeah, so you know, there's some benefit to it. Like I said before, there's benefits to everything because it just builds your experience. But you know, is there a better way? I think so. And unfortunately for me, I just don't have enough time to teach as many people as I'd love to about FP because it is something it's going to change. So
Well,
it's already changed so many lives that I don't want to hold it to myself. I want everyone to know about it and to be able to take their their own experiences and bring it to FP. And
well,
that's
you'll
how.
do. I'm sorry, brother. You just excite me. Keep going, man. Sorry.
Yeah, you know. So and the funny thing is, it doesn't just have to be the kids. You know, I try to get my wife to do it and I teach her some things, but she's just got so much going on and she's just like, I I don't know what to do. I need somebody to teach me, and I need somebody to help me and really guide me to where I need to go. And that's kind of how the sports industry, the strength industry has adapted. Is like, okay, you have to do this, and then you'll get the results you want. FB is a little bit different. You kind of got to go on your own and figure out what you need to figure out and experiment. And some people just don't have the time to do that. But hopefully we can find the time because we see the value in it and we put a lot of value on it. So maybe eventually when I'm done competing and I have a ton more time, I'll get some formal training in FP and can start teaching people more about it.
Well, you're doing more than you probably know, man, by being such an accomplished athlete that you are, representing FP and also saying, yeah, I've switched. I've rolled over metaphorically and literally, and I've moved on. And once you go win gold for the Olympics and the U.S. team, That's going to do wonders for FP. It's going to do. It's going to bring a lot of the right notoriety, the right focus, man. Because again, who else is going to say they're a 4-time NCAA champ in 4 different weight divisions who is also an FP practitioner?
You know, hopefully a lot. You know, in the next 20 years or so, hopefully a lot.
Oh man, I already know it, brother. Man, keep touching the kids' lives, man. Keep doing what you're doing, and eventually pass down those genetics of yours one day. But not till you're really ready to stop slamming people on the mat. Yeah.
For sure, definitely. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it, Adam.
Hey, come back anytime, man. After this tournament, after you win, whatever you want to come talk about it, I'm here anytime. Just like I said, any FP person around, this mic's open to share your experience with it. Because anything that we said earlier that can help share FP and your vision, your dreams of it, I'm in, man. So thank you for coming on.
Yeah, no problem. Talk to you soon.
See you, buddy.